I'm ahead of the game.
Hi, I'm Kelsa Dickey, the CEO of the Financial Coach Academy and my financial coaching business, Fiscal Fitness Phoenix. My coaching journey began more than a decade ago with me helping people for free from my dining room table. What was once a little business of mine has grown into a 7-figure company that employs a team of people. My goal is simple, to help you fall more and more in love with financial coaching. I believe financial coaching is the most rewarding way to make a living. If you are an aspiring financial coach or have been coaching for years, I'm here to help you create a business you love that gets your clients massive results. Let's get to it.
Hey, Coach. Today on the podcast, we're talking about moving from solopreneur to bringing on a new team member. It's something that allows you to think more like a CEO and grow as a business owner. And it's something that allows you to think bigger, which is what we do every year at the Inspired Grace Retreat as well. It's not too early to be thinking about this year's retreat in the fall. Last year, we stayed in a castle in Ireland and ate awesome food while some coaches built out their next offer. Others learned how to get their first few clients. Another coach rewrote some limiting stories that were holding her back, and another coach redesigned their client onboarding sequence to better support their growing client list. And I am so excited to do it again this year. We'll be in Tuscany, Italy this year, and you can get on the wait list right now. Go to financialcoachacademy.com/inspired grace retreat. Again, that is financialcoachacademy.com/inspired grace retreat. First, I want you to thank you for being here, Coach. I learn so much from you every day in the conversations I have with other coaches, and I hope you feel the same about this podcast. If you haven't already, I would really appreciate it if you'd leave a review on your favorite podcast app, or if you're watching on YouTube, subscribe and leave a comment on your favorite episode. The more we hear from you, the more we can cater our content to exactly what you need and want from us. I am really excited about today's episode because we're tackling something that I see trip up a lot of coaches: getting help in your business. You know that moment when you realize you're working every weekend, answering emails at midnight, and feeling like you're always playing catch up? Yeah, we're going to be talking about how to fix that, Coach, okay? So I want to be really upfront with you. Hiring your first support person is actually harder than initially launching your business. Oftentimes we hear people talk about how hard it is to start a business, but very few people talk about this phase of things. You will probably feel like you're letting go of this thing that you've been building and nurturing for so long, and that it's impossible for anyone else to be able to love your business as much as you. I know that this step might sound scary, but stick with me because I'm going to show you exactly how to do it right. This is something that I've personally gone through, and I've helped dozens of coaches in the Financial Coach Academy navigate this transition for themselves as well. Let's start, though, with a bit of a reality check. Let's paint a picture of where you might be right now. And I want you to be honest with yourself about how many of these feel familiar. You're starting work at 6 a.m. to get administrative tasks done before client calls, or you go to your day job. Your inbox has 100 or more unread messages, or another number that stresses you out. This is relative, just like the amount of debt a client has. Some will be stressed about $2,000 on a credit card, and others won't be worried if they have like $99,000 on a credit card. Which, did I ever tell you guys about that one client that I had that had $99,000 on credit cards and were super chill about it? Like, it was seriously no big deal to them. It was actually one of my first clients when I officially realized how important the coaching model is when working with clients. Because how someone feels about something determines the actions they're willing to take, right? Super important. So this client genuinely did not care that they had $99,000 on credit cards, and they sort of had the thought of, it'll be fine. I just figured I'd figure it out at some point, right? So they were very sort of lackadaisical about it. So if I was going to give them action steps that didn't align with what they were thinking and feeling, then we were going to have some friction, right? So yeah, $99,000 in credit card debt and no big deal. Go figure, right? Anyway, back to our reality check, Coach. You've got Post-it notes everywhere with tasks that you're trying to remember to accomplish. Your social media posting is inconsistent because maybe you don't have time. You're turning down speaking opportunities or meetings because your calendar is too full, or you're simply not on top of your other commitments like you know you should be. You feel guilty taking time off because work will pile up, or you are doing $10 an hour tasks instead of $200 an hour coaching work. I see this happening typically around the 8 to 12 month mark in most coaching businesses. Other times it could take 2 to 3 years to reach this point. The interesting thing is, this is actually a good sign. It means your business is growing. But here's the truth. Staying in this place will absolutely lead to burnout, and ultimately it does eventually cap your income as well. Before we talk about hiring, we need to get crystal clear about your zone of genius. Pull over if you're driving, because I want you to actually write this down. Your zone of genius is where 3 things intersect. First, tasks that energize you, so you finish them feeling more alive than when you started. The second thing is work that creates significant value, so high dollar or high ROI activities for your business. And then the third thing is things only you can do, so your unique expertise. For most coaches that I work with, their zone of genius includes things like deep coaching conversations that transform clients' lives, creating innovative solutions for client challenges, developing new coaching frameworks and tools, strategic partnerships and relationship building, having those meetings and conversations, content creation that showcases your expertise, or program development and improvement. Here's what's most likely not in your zone of genius, even if these are things that you think you're good at. Scheduling appointments, following up on unpaid invoices or those client payments that are supposed to be coming in, creating client folders, updating spreadsheets or trackers that you use in your business, gathering data, managing your calendar, basic email responses, social media scheduling, and document formatting. Ugh, document formatting is the worst in my mind. Okay, let me share a personal example. I used to spend 2 hours on Sunday nights scheduling social media posts. I could be good at it. I was efficient and fast, but that was 2 hours I actually wanted to spend creating new coaching resources or connecting with potential clients. Or let's face it, on a Sunday evening, what I really wanted to be doing was spending time with my family. Maybe that sounds familiar. Next, let's talk about the trap of excellence. This is your danger zone, coach, okay? This is where most coaches get stuck, and it's sneaky because it feels like you're doing something responsible. I was stuck in this trap of excellence for quite a while in my own business. Your zone of excellence includes tasks that you can do quickly and you're probably decent at it. They don't stress you out. They feel easy enough to just handle yourself, or they seem too basic to delegate. I know one thing that I told myself in this zone of excellence category is that these tasks are boring, so I don't want to give them to somebody else. Mind you, it was okay for me to accept the boredom, right? When it comes to this area of your business, here's the internal monologue I hear from coaches. Well, it only takes me 15 minutes to schedule appointments. I already have a system for client onboarding. No one will do it exactly the way I want. Or I can't justify paying someone else when I can do it. So financial coach, let's roll up our sleeves and do a little bit of quick math to show why this thinking can be costly. Let's say you spend 10 hours a week on administrative tasks. Your coaching rate, just for easy math, is $200 an hour. That's $2,000 of potential revenue that you are losing per week. Even if you pay an assistant $25 an hour, you're still ahead by $1,750, right? But it's not just about money. Most things aren't, right? It's about impact. Every hour spent on admin time is an hour that you're not creating new coaching resources, following up with potential clients and having those profound conversations where you're learning and moving them ahead, improving your coaching programs, building relationships with referral partners, taking care of yourself so that you can show up more fully for your clients. Instead of thinking that it's not possible to hire someone or get help, ask yourself, how can I make this possible? Not can I or can't I? How can I? Oftentimes, this is a trap because these tasks feel safer to us, right? We want to avoid some of this other type of work, not because we don't enjoy it, because it uses a different part of our brain that we're not always used to capturing, right? Either you're already ready or you do some work on your mindset and then get ready. But let's talk about hiring next, okay? Now, before you go and post about a position online, you actually want to know exactly what you're hiring for. And you'll want to be prepared to train your new hire once you find that match. Here are the steps that I want you to follow. Step 1, task documentation. This might take about 2 to 4 weeks, okay? Get a dedicated notebook or a digital document like a Google Doc. Write down everything you do, no matter how small. Here are some categories that you probably want to include. Client communication, welcome emails, session follow-ups, check-in messages, or resource sharing. Administrative tasks like calendar management, file organization, data entry, documentation, right? Then there's marketing activities, social media posting or scheduling, email newsletter preparation, sort of the design and inputting it into your email software, blog formatting, content scheduling, and then lastly, client experience, the onboarding process and those various touch points, resource preparation, gathering that information so you can send it out, session scheduling, and payment processing. Know how long each one of these tasks are taking you to complete, and then mark which tasks are regular versus occasional, recurring versus every once in a while, okay? And I like to highlight tasks that often get delayed or forgotten, the things that I like to procrastinate on. That can be one of those things that we probably need to give to somebody relatively quickly. Now, I know that this is going to feel a little tedious and pointless, and it is normal to not want to stick with this process or quit partway through, if you will. But I promise that this is worth the time that it takes. It's an investment in your time because it will save you so much time and energy later. That's how I want you to think about it, okay? Now, step 2 is analyze your tasks. Create 3 specific lists. 1, only me tasks. These are things that only you can do. Number 2, could delegate. These are the tasks that you're okay doing for now, but ultimately you eventually like to delegate. And the third category are priority tasks. Those are the things that you need to get off your plate and now. Typically, only me tasks might include things like coaching sessions. You're probably not going to hire a VA to actually coach your clients, right? Program development, strategic planning in your business, key client relationships, core content creation. So those client conversation elements that Nora was talking about a couple episodes ago, and then financial advice and guidance. The could delegate tasks could be things like email management, appointment scheduling, document preparation, social media creation or posting. Those are 2 different steps, right? Basic client correspondence, file organization, data entry, calendar management, invoice or payment follow-up, resource formatting, right? I do not like design work at all. That is one of those things that I delegated very, very quickly. And then that gets us to your priority to delegate tasks. These are the tasks that are probably your biggest time drains, honestly. They're oftentimes very repetitive tasks, things that time suck every single week. Tasks that you often procrastinate or that don't require your expertise in particular. And then finally, tasks that interrupt your flow. And for me, this is my creative flow, right? They pull me out of creative time where I'm thinking about my clients and how I can best serve them. Step 3 is to create your training materials. So it's time to create the training materials that can act as your SOP. SOP stands for standard operating procedures for each one of the tasks. I like to select sort of the first 10 delegation tasks. So you want to sort of batch these things, right? I like to choose tasks that are high frequency items first. So things that are going to be done on a very repetitive basis. I like to include a mix of simple and complex tasks. That way you're sort of challenging and testing the new person that you hire. And then I also like to focus on tasks with a very clear process. So it's something that we do the same way every time or almost every time. So there's very few exceptions, right? Now, for each tasks, you want to include or create written process documents, a video walkthrough. Maybe there's a checklist or steps that you can outline, sort of a common troubleshooting guide, if you will. And I also like, and this is an important one, an example of a completed task or a project, right? So an example of what it should look like at the end of the day. Here is a cheat sheet for doing this step quickly. You can record a Loom video of you actually doing the task and narrate every step of the process. So I like to start with the big picture. This is how we welcome new clients. And then I explain the why of each step. So not just like, here's why we do this, here's why this is important, here's the big picture, right? But now here's why each step in that process is also important. And then you can show variations or sort of exceptions if there are any of those. And you can also point out potential pitfalls. This is really helpful if they're working in some sort of software or platform that they're sort of learning a new tech for. It's like, oh, if you click this button, it sort of takes you to this other screen and it sort of messes up sometimes, right? So little things like that, things that you sort of figured out probably the hard way and it was painful. You either lost some work or it didn't save or something like that. And you want to help them avoid making some of those missteps. Lastly, demonstrate quality standards that are essential for success. So really talk about, I know this step might seem tedious, but here's why we do it. This is a very important step and we're never going to skip this step, right? So really make sure that those quality standards are being communicated in that Loom video. Now, once that video is recorded, run it through a transcription software like Otter.ai. Then copy and paste the transcript into another tool like ChatGPT and ask for it to create an SOP for the task with the step-by-step instructions that are needed. You can review it for accuracy. Absolutely. Please make sure you do that step. But boom, it is done. This is so much faster nowadays thanks to AI than it was even just a few years ago. Okay, so make sure you're taking advantage of the tech that exists. Loom for the video that is watching you and following your screen as you complete the task yourself. Okay, make sure you're narrating that. Transcription service like Otter.ai, and then ChatGPT so that it can create the SOP for you. And then we like to keep all of these in a clear folder structure where we can store all of our SOPs. At the Financial Coach Academy, we organize by category, so client care, admin, marketing, those types of things. We include templates and examples inside of each one of those folders. You can also add relevant passwords or access instructions. So it's like a text message goes to this person, so that person needs to be available when you're logging in for the first time, right? And then finally, make sure you know any required tools or software so that the person who's learning how to do the tasks knows how to do it. Coach, these steps save you immense time and effort when you hire your first team member, and it gives them some autonomy and confidence as well. Bringing a new team member on to your team is a really big deal. So make sure you set up your new assistant for success. Here are some other things that I'd like for you to keep in mind. Chances are you'll need to consider some systems preparation before the team member starts. This is definitely one of those things that caught me off guard when I hired my very first employee. They sort of came on the job and I was like, oh, wait, I probably need to have some things in order for you to actually work, right? So number one, technology access. How are they going to access all of the things they need in order to do their job? I like to imagine, the tasks that I was giving them. I would look at the list, that top 10 list, and I'd be like, which program will they need to access for this one? And what will they need to access for this one? And really just use that as your guide, right? So you might need to set up some email accounts for them, or a password manager and getting those organized. Maybe some software user accounts. So they might not be the admin on some of the software. That might be sort of a phase 2 hire, but they are going to have need a user account for some of your software. You might need to establish that. And some of those will come with a fee. You also want to pay attention to any necessary permissions or limitations on those various user accounts. So just keep that in mind. Another thing to sort of prepare ahead of time are your communication systems. How are you going to communicate with this new team member, assuming that they're virtual, right? You can use project management tools such as Asana or Trello, a team chat platform like Slack or Teams, a video call software that you might want to use like a Marco Polo, and then also ask yourself what kind of file sharing system that you might need. Your new employee can help you establish these platforms that might be part of their job when you hire them. You can tell them that, or you can add these systems so that they're ready to go when the team member starts. Totally up to you. The last thing you'll want to think about are some documentation requirements. So you want to protect yourself with some of the following agreements with your new team member. A confidentiality agreement. You do not want them sharing your proprietary information with anybody else or talking about you or your business with others outside of the organization. An independent contractor agreement, chances are that's how they're going to be set up. Some security protocols, what are they doing with access to your information? How are they safeguarding that? And then any communication guidelines, when you will be responsive, how they can contact you, those types of things. So the drinking game, never have I ever. We have at the Financial Coach Academy a never would I list. For example, Never would I spend money without permission. Now, at the start of a new project, we map out a project timeline, the goals and tasks, but also a budget for that project. So a key decision maker can spend money within that budget that we've established, and that is not what I'm talking about in this example. This one came out of necessity. Back in the day, my employees used to book their own travel and then I would reimburse them. That was sort of the system that we had set up. It was just easier so they could sort of figure out how are they getting to and from the airport based on what was most convenient for them and all that kind of jazz. Well, 1 year for the symposium, our annual conference that we used to host, we got people's flights and one person's was like double everybody else's. And so we asked for the detailed receipt. And this team member had upgraded so many different things. Now, I don't remember all of the details because this was quite a while ago, but if I remember correctly, they like upgraded to early check-in. They upgraded to priority seating. They picked a premium seat that had like a premium cost on top of just like a regular cost, all sorts of things. And they full on expected me to pay for it because those things were important to them. Right? And I truly tried to put myself in their shoes. And here's the reality. I genuinely could not imagine ever spending someone else's money in that way. Like that is just not something that I would do. As a result, I didn't anticipate anyone else ever doing something like that, right? The crazy thing is this same person had purchased some things to do their job more effectively at one point. And if you are not watching on YouTube, it's sort of like a doing their job more effectively sort of look that I'm giving, like an air quotes sort of thing, right? So that she could do her job more effectively. And one of the things that she purchased was access to a program that we were already paying for another part of the business, right? So it was a total waste of my money. Clearly, this is a values conversation too, but sometimes it's just plain necessary to say, I would never do this list. As a member of this team, this is something I would never do. This might be something like how they communicate with somebody when they call the office number, right? How do you expect them to treat people? That is really important to think through a never would I ever list, okay? Now, all travel currently is booked internally, but we've also added that policy that unless you've been given a budget for your role, you don't spend money that's not yours without permission. Even if you're thinking, but it's just me and my assistant, why do all of this work? Know that by doing these steps, you are going to free up so much of your time. Your next hire might just be a new coach who wants to work with you, right? Doing all of this work is incredibly valuable. It's going to take a lot of upfront time, but you will be so glad you did it because it will save you immense time and hassle later, okay? Think about it as being proactive versus reactionary. Of course, the next step is onboarding and training the new hire, which is just as important as the hiring and prepping process. But I think I've left you with a lot of food for thought with this episode already, so we will be sure to dive into that in a future episode. Coaching is all about the application of knowledge. Now that you've learned something new, what do you think about it? How do you feel about it? And what action steps do you want to take as a result? So here is your question, coach. Where are you in your hiring journey? Where do you feel stuck? Reflecting in this can help you to get to the next step and really start to grow as a CEO. It can help you to see yourself not just as an entrepreneur, but as a business owner and as a business leader. I will see you next week, Coach. I believe financial coaching is the best and most rewarding way to make a living. I truly love what I do. If you're ready to learn and see how to become a profitable, successful financial coach, check us out at financialcoachacademy.com to learn more about our online courses, free trainings, and events. As always, I love hearing from you. If you have any questions for the FCA podcast or to share your thoughts on the reflection question from today's episode, go to financialcoachacademy.com/podcast. And if you love this podcast, hit the thumbs up button on today's episode, subscribe, and leave us a rating or review on Apple Podcasts. It would mean the world